Currently, I have a cold. It's not pleasant, and the thought is even worse that something as small as a virus can make me feel so miserable. But the question still remains, are viruses alive? There are many types of viruses, including bacteriophages, like this one that looks like an alien, Ebola that looks like a worm, and HIV that looks like a very prickly green beach ball. For the purposes of this video, we're primarily talking about bacteriophages. Why? Because they look the coolest. Now that we've got that cleared up, let's talk about life in general. While there are many different things that constitute what we call life, scientists generally agree that for something to be living, it must have 7 certain characteristics. They must be made of cells, they must be able to use energy, they must be able to respond to stimuli, they must be able to perform homeostasis, they must be able to grow and develop as they age, they must be able to reproduce on their own, and they must contain some sort of genetic material. To visualize these, let's take a look at 3 examples. Our friend Steve, P1 Puna-like bacteriophage, and Apple's new iPhone 6. Steve meets all of these requirements. He can do everything. Out of this list, a bacteriophage only really completes the genetic material section. The iPhone 6, however, will use its energy to power it. It will shut off if exposed to water, which is a response to a stimulus, and it will regulate internal pieces to maintain order, which is homeostasis. So according to this list, an iPhone 6 is closer to being alive than a bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is just a sack of sugar and protein. Steve can comprehend and thoroughly explain Hawking radiation, and my iPhone can tell me which way is north. My iPhone can also tell me what Hawking radiation is, but I'm trying to prove a point here. As for this virus, is it alive? Following this shopping list of life characteristics, nope. That's it. See you next episode. But hold on, this is Super Enzyme Justice League, so now we have to over-explain everything. Let's talk a little bit more about what viruses actually are and what they do. In essence, these little buggers are a bunch of cellular terrorists that can't let me get through the month of October without a sore throat. They're like a cellular ISIS, just with less religious extremism. As for their structure, they're primarily made of proteins, but carry RNA or DNA. They go around stabbing cells, injecting their genetic material to force the cell to make more viruses. The cell just keeps on making them until eventually it dies or can no longer make more viruses because it isn't making enough protein for itself. But each of these new viruses it has made are now actively seeking out another cell to zombify into making some more viruses, which is why Tylenol can only help me so much. But you see, because these viruses aren't really making new viruses on their own, they're just as living as your eyelashes. Both are cellular proteins, but one is hijacked. Viruses do contain DNA, and they do serve their own purpose, so this raises a new question. What is life anyway? To add an even thicker layer of complexity to this discussion, look back to Steve. You have parts of Steve and you have parts of bacteria inside of Steve. There are more bacterial cells inside of Steve than there are actual Steve cells. So this raises a new question. What is Steve? Is Steve Steve plus bacteria? Is Steve Steve minus bacteria? Let's say that Steve just ate a plate of Outback Steakhouse bacon cheese fries. I'm not a sponsor, just an enthusiast, but would he technically be Steve plus bacon cheese fries now? But that doesn't answer the question. What is Steve? Is he a grocery list of characteristics, or is it complex chemical reactions? I think it's probably up to each person to decide for themselves, mainly because the universe says absolutely nothing about it. I'd like to think that life is just a neat little way of organizing chemical reactions, but again, the universe said no comment. But Steve can say whatever he likes, so in all honesty, it's just human opinion. So to answer the incredibly complex question of are viruses alive, one should first look to the laundry list of living rules and then take a look at what the virus does, which, when simplified, is really just zombifying cells that are technically bacon cheese fries, but the universe is still silent. I'm certain that if the universe could taste stuff, it would love those bacon cheese fries. Did you like this episode? There's a button for that. Subscribe if you'd like to see more explanatory doodles from the only YouTube channel that does it this poorly. If you've got a question you want to see answered on the show, tell us in the comments. We'll do our best.